Welcome back to my channel. In this one, I'm diving into the story of a figure known as Twin from the Rolling 40 Crips. Twin was born Gary Thoron in 1970, just 6 minutes before his identical brother, Jerry. Because of this, Gary became known as Twin 1, while Jerry was called Twin 2. The brothers were raised in South Central Los Angeles, specifically on Van Ness Street, deep in the heart of Rolling 40's Crip territory. Twin's early life. Like many kids growing up in South Central, the streets shaped them early. It didn't matter if you came from a two-parent home or a broken one. Your environment had a way of molding you. For Gary and Jerry, that environment meant gang life. The Rolling 40 Crips were the dominant presence in their neighborhood, and by the 1980s, both brothers were official members, earning their names and respect in the streets. The Rolling 40s in the 80s were building their rep fast, going to war with blood sets like the Brims, the BPS in the 20s, and clashing with rival Crip sets like the Hoovers. Around the same time, crack cocaine hit Los Angeles like a bomb. The drug money was quick and plentiful, and people either got rich or got addicted. Entire communities crumbled under the weight of addiction and violence, turning LA into one of the most dangerous cities in America. Gary and Jerry jumped into the drug game, chasing the flashy lifestyle many young men dreamed of: fast money, cars, power, and respect. Gary's first robbery happened when he was just 12, and his first drug deal wasn't long after. He was moving fast, so fast that by 15 he was already a father. But hustling wasn't all they were known for. The twins were active participants in the wars the 40s were caught up in. Rival sets targeted them directly. Molotov cocktails were thrown into their grandmother's house, and gunfire riddled her front door. Retaliation became routine, and shootouts were part of their everyday reality. There were multiple attempts on Gary's life. In one incident, he was caught slipping in his own hood and had to die behind palm trees for cover while bullets flew. But he wasn't hit. In another, while cruising down Florence Avenue, some Bloods recognized the car and opened fire. Gary escaped unharmed, but Jerry was shot in the arm. By the late 90s, Gary had the LAPD watching his every move. Though his official rap sheet listed offenses like reckless driving and cocaine possession, law enforcement was working hard to build a bigger case against him. Anything to get him off the streets. After making money in the streets, Gary realized he needed to shift gears and step away from the street life. He and his brother opened a convenience store just a block away from their grandmother's house, marking a new chapter. Gary also earned his GED and enrolled in classes at Cal State LA. In his spare time, he gave back, offering guidance to local youth and becoming a familiar face at community events. Community work. Eventually, Gary landed a full-time position with the mayor's gang reduction and youth development program. When his phone buzzed late at night, it was often a city alert about shooting. Without hesitation, Gary would throw on some clothes and rush to the scene, not as a cop, but as a peacekeeper. He consoled the victims' families and tried to de-escalate tense situations. The mayor's office only hired high-status OGs with real pull in the community, men who had lived through the deadly violence of the 1980s and 90s, when homicide in the city topped 1,000 a year. By 2018, Gary was 48 years old, a father of 5, and had found stability as a respected gang interventionist. On the side, he also worked security for film and TV productions, including John Singleton's Snowfall. Gary was also deeply involved in the Crips Softball League, a project he had helped launch in 2016 by bringing the Rolling 40s in as one of the founding teams. The league was created to foster peace and strengthen bonds between different gangs. Most players were middle-aged and no longer active in the gang world, but as OGs, they aimed to set a positive example for the younger generation. By that time, however, tensions had risen between former allies, the Rolling 40 Crips and the Rolling 60 Crips. The 60s weren't part of the league due to the ongoing feud. On July 1st, 2018, during a softball game at a local park, a member of the Rolling 60s showed up uninvited. Some of the 40s asked him to leave, and the conversation quickly grew heated. Eventually, the 60s member left. A witness, later identified as TM, said she and a friend were sitting in the park when they saw 15 to 40 men in the parking lot shouting back and forth. Concerned for the children nearby, TM decided to call 911. Police arrived within minutes, but by then, the scene had already calmed down, and officers didn't observe any immediate disturbance. Later that day, Gary called his fiancée and mentioned there had been an incident at the softball game. "I'll tell you when I get home," he said. After the game, Gary returned to his community in the avenues of the 40s to celebrate his grandmother's birthday and visit friends. His first stop was his grandmother's house, followed by a visit to a friend named TJ, whose home was on the 4500 block of Van Ness Street. A small gathering was taking place there. Around 7 p.m. that evening, a man named Kevin arrived at the house to visit his friend FJ, TJ's son. Gary's truck was parked in the driveway, and he stood talking with Kevin and TJ near the passenger side of the vehicle. Suddenly, gunfire erupted, the brutal shootout. Startled by the sound of gunshots, Kevin attempted to run toward FJ's front door, but was struck multiple times in the stomach and neck. Inside the house, FJ heard the shots and quickly opened the door. He saw two men in the street, roughly 4 to 5 feet apart, firing at Gary's truck, with Gary still standing near the passenger side. Once the shooting stopped, FJ helped Kevin to the house while TJ called 911. Kevin was rushed to the hospital, where he underwent multiple surgeries to treat his injuries. He later told investigators he hadn't seen the shooters or their vehicle, as he wasn't facing the street at the time. TJ also said he didn't witness the actual shooting, though he did make the emergency call. Nearby witnesses reported seeing two men exit a black vehicle and open fire on the truck. They even provided security footage from their home surveillance system, which was later shown in court. When police arrived, they found Gary lying on the ground next to the passenger side of his truck. He had suffered multiple gunshot wounds and was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators reviewed footage from both residential and traffic cameras, which captured a black car arriving on Van Ness Avenue with a white Uber sticker on the window and a Nevada license plate. The car was later identified as a rental. Detectives learned the vehicle hadn't been returned and was listed as stolen by the rental company. In the course of their investigation, police visited the home of a known Rolling 60s affiliate named Brandon. Searching for the black car, although the vehicle wasn't there, they noticed a red Kia parked out front. A woman was in the driver's seat and a male sat beside her, but officers were unable to identify him at that moment. Shortly afterward, police continued down the street, passing a duplex on West 59th. The duplex on West 59th Street was a well-known gathering spot for the Rolling 60s. When police passed the location, they noticed the same red Kia they had seen parked in front of Brandon's house less than an hour earlier. The same woman was behind the wheel, and the same male passenger was seated next to her. As the red Kia began to drive off, the police, traveling in the opposite direction, made a quick U-turn to follow it. By the time they caught up, the male passenger was no longer in the vehicle. When the driver failed to signal while making a turn, officers initiated a traffic stop. During the stop, police spotted a white Uber sticker on the floorboard and a key fob in the backseat. That key fob was later confirmed to be for the black car involved in the shooting. Later that same day, authorities located the black vehicle parked near the same duplex on West 59th Street. Investigators used surveillance footage, traffic camera data, cell phone tower records, and GPS tracking to map the suspect's movements. Notably, Brandon was wearing an ankle monitor, which tracked his every move on July 1st, 2018. That afternoon, Brandon drove the black car to a car wash, where he met with one of the alleged shooters, Chico. Chico was wearing easily recognizable red pants with a white stripe down the side. The two spent about an hour at the car wash before Brandon returned home. Meanwhile, Chico and another suspected accomplice from the Rolling 60s, named DeJohn, went to a nearby mall. Video footage from the mall showed both men wearing clothing that matched what the shooters were seen wearing in the video of the shooting. Around 5 p.m., the group stopped at a gas station before heading to a park where the Rolling 40s were hosting their softball game. They stayed in the parking lot for about 10 minutes, then left to visit a liquor store. Eventually, they returned to their neighborhood on West 59th Street, arriving around 6:20 p.m. Records indicate that Brandon remained there until about 7:15 p.m., with Chico and DeJohn present the entire time. GPS data from Brandon's ankle monitor then showed the group leaving the Rolling 60s territory and entering the Rolling 40's neighborhood. They arrived at FJ's house on Van Ness Street just before 7:30 p.m. Security footage captured the black car driving past FJ's residence, circling the block, then stopping in front of the house. Two individuals exited the vehicle, wearing hoodies pulled over their heads, and the same outfits that Chico and DeJohn were seen wearing at the mall. Surveillance cameras showed both individuals with their arms extended in a shooting stance. After the gunfire, they quickly returned to the vehicle, which sped away from the scene. Brandon's ankle monitor confirmed his exact movements, showing he was present throughout the entire sequence of events. Brandon and his crew returned to Rolling 60's territory after the shooting. With multiple witnesses, clear surveillance footage, detailed cell phone records, and Brandon's movements tracked by an ankle monitor, police found it easy to make arrests. All three suspects were soon in custody. Gary's funeral drew a diverse and unexpected crowd, a true reflection of the life he led as a peacemaker. Gang members from across the city came to pay their respects, including traditional rivals of the Rolling 40s like the Bloods and the Hoovers. Even a representative from the mayor's office was in attendance. Their presence was a powerful testament to the respect Gary had earned throughout the community. In court, Brandon offered his version of events. He claimed he was simply driving past the house on Van Ness when he saw Gary standing in the driveway. He insisted their real purpose for being there was to buy codeine from a Rolling 40s associate, not to retaliate for the earlier softball park incident. According to Brandon, as they arrived, a tall man wearing glasses approached the vehicle and tried to shoot them, but his gun jammed. He said he was unaware that his two companions were armed until they suddenly jumped out of the car and opened fire. This story, however, was rejected in court. Gary's brother, Jerry, was present at every hearing, often wearing a shirt in tribute to his brother that read, "Two of a kind." Brandon, already carrying 2 prior strikes, was sentenced in 2022 to 82 years to life. DeJohn pleaded no contest to voluntary manslaughter and received 15 years. Chico, who was a minor at the time of the shooting, was sentenced to juvenile life. Someone who worked closely with Gary reflected on his death with sorrow, but also deep admiration. His story is one of redemption, they said. He managed to change his life in a way that even people with every resource and privilege often can't. Through strength and perseverance, he saved himself and then committed himself to saving others. Gary once described what life used to be like. Coming out the house, I had to tighten my laces and put on a belt, but I also had to strap up with a gun. That was just a way of life. But as you get older, you start to think differently. You want to be able to talk it out instead of fighting or shooting it out. That's always been my wisdom, because if you were my brother, you should never become my enemy. But somewhere along the line, things got twisted.